Welcome to iTenv Healthcare Solutions webinar. We're excited to present Automate Multiple Encounters in NextGen PM. My name is Chelsea Grover and I'm the Marketing Communications Coordinator for iTenv. I'd like to take a moment to explain the process for today's presentation. First, I'd like to mention that this webinar will be recorded and that we'll send out a copy of the slides along with the recording within the next week. Now, as most of you know, this is usually when we cover a bit of who we are with you. But since I promised in the webinar invitation to make this one brief, we're just going to jump straight into it. And as an FYI, everyone's phone will remain muted the entire time. Please use the webinar control panel to ask any and all questions. We'll answer them all at the end, but you can ask them anytime. Okay, so let's get started here and let's dive right in. We have two super quick polls that I'm launching right now, just to kind of get a feel for where you guys are all at, just so we can tailor our presentation to everyone today. If you take a minute and look at your screen, we'll just buzz through these two super quick. If everybody will vote, when multiple encounters in NextGen are needed for a single patient visit, how many are typically needed? Select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or more. So if everybody will look at their screen and do that, looks like we've got about 33% of the votes in, 56. Give everybody just another 10 seconds here. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this. Close this poll in case anybody else is interested in seeing it. Here's the results. It looks like most of you have to make 2, although some of you have to make 6 or more. So, looks like we got the whole range of coverage here. So thanks for answering that one. And we'll do the second quick one. Similar question, but totally different. This one asks, for what purposes do you create several encounters? This one you can select all but apply. We have professional fees, facility surgical fees, anesthesia, specialized diagnostic equipment or procedures, or durable medical equipment / other. I hated combining that last one, but that is the constraint that we have in this technology platform was we could only have 5. So we'll give everybody another few seconds to finish voting in this one here. I'm surprised so far nobody's used durable medical equipment / other. You guys are very specific. I like that. Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and close this. Let's share these results. So it looks like almost all of you need it for professional fees. A lot of you need it for specialized diagnostic equipment or procedures, along with facility surgical fees and anesthesia. So thank you all for chiming in on that. So without further delay, let's get to your presenters for today. Tom Seco is iTenv's Business Development Manager and subject matter expert on the product, and Joel Schultz is the Director of Product Solutions at iTenv, which means that he and his team are the people that actually built this powerful tool, and thus is going to be in a great position to demonstrate it. So Tom, it's all yours. Feel free to get started when you're ready.
Okay. So here's the agenda that we put together for today's meeting. Chelsea just gave you a brief overview we'll cover a brief overview of what the multiple encounter billing manager is. I'll give you a brief overview of that, and then we'll turn it over to Joe, and Joe's going to take you through the demonstration of the product, and then we'll answer any questions that you have. What you'll learn in the demonstration is, how this add-on product can help increase the efficiency of the billing staff by enabling them to reduce the time that it takes to enter in multiple encounters for a single patient visit. So really the purpose of all of our products that we've developed over the years for NextGen as add-on products has really come from our clients. Our clients have come to us with a problem and a challenge, and they've asked us to solve that problem or challenge using technology to develop a program for them. So with this particular one, we had a couple clients come to us and say that they've spent a lot of time entering in multiple charges, multiple encounters for a single patient visit, and they have to toggle between a few different screens to do it. And they asked us if we could find some way to make that more efficient for them. So we came up with this application called BillingManager that allows you to enter in multiple charges, multiple encounters from a single screen without having to move between screens to be able to do it. So it significantly increases the efficiency of the staff, as well as reducing the amount of time that it takes to do the work. And with that, I'll turn it over to Joe, and he'll give you a demonstration.
Thank you, Tom. We're going to go ahead and switch screens here and get into the application itself. So your screen may flicker for a second, but you should be seeing NextGen Practice Management up on your screen right now. If not, let us know in the control panel there in the chat panel. As Tom mentioned, the Billing Manager is really intended to simplify that process of charge entry across multiple encounters. When you have those types of events where you have to bill them out separately, maybe even in separate practices, depending on how you're structured in NextGen. What we've done is we've created a tool that takes all the relevant fields of the encounters and puts them on one screen in a grid that's configurable so that you can enter these without having to jump around NextGen. If you think about your process today, you probably have an encounter that gets created when the patient checks in, and that becomes what we call the base encounter. That's the one where you're taking in the patient, you're assigning the insurances, you're setting up the defaults, that type of stuff, and that's going to be the template for which the other encounters will be created from, even if we have to create the person as a patient in one of your other practices. The way the demo environment here is configured is for an ophthalmology type practice, but we can change that configuration and we'll work with you in your test environment to set it up so that it meets your needs. Normally, one of the first things we'll do is set up the configuration, and we do this in the group maintenance because we're creating groups of encounters for each one of these. So in this case, we have our professional charges, and in our scenario here, we're using that as the base encounter. That's the NextGen practice and encounter in it that's going to get created when the patient shows up at the window and checks in. And then we have additional encounters that'll be created for a scan, for the ASC itself, and then for the anesthesia. So I've designated one of these to be the base. I've also told it for the other ones to use the base encounters insurances, and we can set the minimum and maximum for each one of those other encounters that we want created. Normally where this is important is if you require some other encounter to be created, you could set the minimum to 1 instead of 0. We can also, if we don't want to use the base insurances, we can use the last encounters insurance within that practice. In most cases, you're probably going to want to use the base insurance because the person may not exist in that other practice if you are going across practices. And then we can map the rendering and referring providers from that base encounter to other positions. So the rendering in the clinic may become the referring in the surgery center because you may have a different surgeon. So we give you configuration here to be able to manage that. And then, of course, we probably want all the encounters to be on the same service date in NextGen, so we can go ahead and do that. And then we recently added to propagate the bill hold date onto the other encounters if you want. So these are configurable, and these are groups of encounters. So you can have 1 or more encounters within each group, and you can have many charges under each encounter. Currently, we support up to 7 of these, and that's something we can expand in the future if you had a need. So that's the configuration. We'd work with you, we'd set this up once, and then you'd go in and have your charge posters go in and create those other encounters. Often they're working from some other list of base encounters and then creating the other encounters. So if you know that base encounter number, you can type it in and get to it quickly. If you have to search for a particular patient, we can go ahead and put in that patient and find them in the list and then go ahead and select it from there. But it's much faster if you have the encounter number to type that in, and it'll pull up that base encounter and any charges that were put on it. Now, we're starting with the base of the professional charges. We'll see it's in the practice NextGen medical group, location, encounter number. So all this is being pulled out of the encounter that's in NextGen already. Up here on the right, it'll pull the primary insurance that was used. Here's the service date, and then it's marked as enroll for the status. And that's really letting us know that it's in NextGen, but it's not configured as part of this set of encounters that we're going to create. Now, if we decided, you know what, I have an additional charge that I want to put on this one, I can right mouse just like we do all over NextGen and say add new charge, and I can, look up another code and pull that in. All right, it'll bring down the diagnosis, whether I have one or several of them onto the other ones. It'll bring down the other attributes. As we look across this, we'll see here's the service item, and we'll see that's highlighted up above, the sequence, the quantity. So we've taken, again, all those fields in the NextGen form for the encounters and charges and put them here in a grid where they're just easy to see several of them on a single screen. So this saves you having to do all that shifting around, especially when you get to the point of creating those other encounters. Let's say now I want to create a surgery encounter. So I can go add new surgery encounter, and it'll pull it down, and I can change my location if I want, facility, patient type, all that's available. I get over to my rendering, and this one was configured so that the rendering from the clinic becomes the referring for the surgery center because we're going to have a different surgeon. So I can go ahead and do a name lookup and pull that back. And there are hotkeys too, so you don't have to use the mouse. So I can do along the bottom here, it says Control N is new charge for whatever encounter I'm in. Control 1 is professional. Control 2 is A-scan. And those names will change next to the control keys based on your configuration. So I can come in here and do a simple SIM search. So I can go ahead and take, 6620, pull that in. I can add another one real quick, and you can see how fast this becomes. And, I can scroll down and pick another one, bring that back in. So right now we've templated out an additional charge up here, another encounter. We don't have an encounter number yet assigned to it because it hasn't been saved into NextGen at this point. We can see the status is insert, which means it's brand new. It hasn't been created in NextGen, and it's new here. All right, so we have that one set up. So now if I want, I can go ahead and do the anesthesia charge. So I can go ahead and do a Control 4, and that'll bring us down here to the anesthesia. And I can go ahead and pick my referring here, or my rendering in this case, and I can do a Control N, and I can pick an anesthesia sim. Now with the anesthesia, just like in NextGen, we support all the time mappings and roundings that are set up based on the payer. So it'll bring if there's a base unit, and then it'll calculate the additional units, and it'll go ahead and do the math up here. So we have the, 5 times 90 ends up being 450. And again, just like in NextGen, you can override that. But you can see again how quickly you can move through this. In a lot of cases, you don't even need to use the mouse. You can just use the hotkeys and go ahead and do that. So now that we have these additional encounters and charges entered, it's just a matter of clicking save. It'll go do the work in NextGen, and then we move on to our subsequent patients. If I pull this up, we can see that we had our original encounter, our new charge. We now have an encounter number for the surgery center and the charges underneath that, and we have an encounter number for the anesthesia too. So if we go up to our NextGen and switch over to the surgery center, we can go look at that encounter real quick. And show you what was created. Again, in real life, you wouldn't actually go look, you just kind of keep going and entering your various other encounters and charges that are needed. So here's our new encounter, our rendering referring, our charges were brought over in here. So all that gets done for you on your behalf, and the who when information retains the user who went ahead and launched the billing manager. So that's the process in a nutshell. We can go ahead and if you want to reach out to us, or when we reach out to you as follow-up and do a one-on-one demonstration with you and get into your specifics. But the whole key to this thing is that it is configurable. So some of you said you need to create one encounter. Some of you said you need to create 6 or more encounters. We can configure it for that for you and for the types of encounters you need to create, and then go ahead and use it in your test environment and then move it into production when you're ready for that. I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Tom now.
Okay, thanks, Joe. So that was a demonstration of Billing Manager and how it can increase efficiency and effectiveness of your billing staff using the multiple encounter Billing Manager software. And what we'll do now is, with regards to next steps, as far as what Joe just mentioned, if you have any questions about what you just saw, don't hesitate to send me an email or give me a call, or send Joe an email or give him a call. Our information is here on the screen. And if you just have some questions we can answer, or if you'd like to have a more in-depth discussion about Billing Manager and how it would fit within your organization, we can discuss that as well. And if you want to have a one-on-one demonstration, we can do that. Gives you the opportunity to ask questions as it specifically pertains to your organization and to your processes. So with that, we'll turn it back over to Chelsea and we'll answer any questions that you have.
Great, thank you so much, Tom, and thank you, Joe. Again, everybody, if you have questions, you can type them in the questions area of the webinar control panel. We only have a handful, so we have plenty of time to answer them, and we're just going to go through them in the order that we've received them. So first question, how long does the installation take?
This is Joe. I'll go ahead and run with that one. The installation itself usually takes 90 minutes or less, usually a lot less than that, but we'll work with your IT staff to get it installed in your test environment. And then when it's ready there, we'll work with the business staff to configure it and set up these different encounters or types of encounters that you need in there. The reality is we can have it ready and test within, several hours of actual elapsed time. The calendar time for that really depends on your schedule and your team schedule. We'll work as quick or as slow as you need to based on your project load.
Great, thank you, Joe. Next question, is this licensed per user or practices?
Generally, this is licensed over practices. So if you're in one big practice and you need to use it, or if you're in practices that are segregated out for, like the scenario here, right? We had the clinic, we had the surgery center, we had the anesthesia. Those could all be separate practices. What we try to do is license it for your need instead of just, saying this person can use it, this person can't. So we want to get your charge entry staff moving along as quickly as possible.
Great, thanks, Joe. Next question, and it looks like this might be our last, so if you have more, don't hesitate to ask. What if you have multiple encounters that you need to be sent out on one claim that are in the same chart?
That's one where we'd work with you on it and determine the details of getting those separate encounters into the same claim. Right now, because they are separate encounters, they'd probably go out as separate claims, but if you have a way you're massaging it today, we'd sit down and talk to you about it and figure out how we could emulate that too from this tool.
Okay.
So please reach out to us with more detail on that one, and we can start a conversation.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. This was one of our first tries of doing one of these abbreviated, shortened webinars. It looks like we had some good interest in them, so maybe we'll do them again in the future. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and have a great week. And again, if you have any questions, you see both Tom and Joe's information up on the screen. I'll also be sending out the slides in a couple of days. So don't hesitate to get a hold of us any way you can. We're happy to help. We're here to answer your questions. So please reach out. Thank you, everybody.
Everyone.
Oh, wait. We have another question.
Oh, okay.
Don't go yet. Next question. Can you run the anesthesia service information and the anesthesia concurrency audit?
Please reach out to us about that one, or we'll reach out to you and we can discuss it further and see how that fits into your workflow. So we'll generate the encounter, we'll generate the anesthesia charges on it, and then we'll work with you on where you want to take it from there.
So it sounds like this is kind of customizable based on practices' individual needs, Joe.
That is true, yes.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.